Create Art Podcast Project, National Novel Writing Month and National Podcast Post Month. Hello, friends. This is Timothy Chemo Bryan, your head instigator for Create Art Podcast, where I take my 20 plus years of experience in the arts and education world and help you tame your inner critic and create more than you consume. Well, it's November. Can you believe it? For me, that means celebrating my favorite holiday, which is Thanksgiving. Also, this is my third year for National Novel Writing Month, and where I'll be writing a 50,000 word novel and podcasting every day for National Podcasting Post Month. Killing two birds with one stone. So you're going to hear from me every day in the month, reading the daily output of the novel. I'd appreciate any comments that you have, so please feel free to let me know what you're thinking. You can email me, timothy@createartpodcast.com, or if you go right to the website on each day, you can post your comments right there on the post. Now, why do I do this? Well, if I'm going to ask you to be brave out there and share your work, then I better do it myself. Plus, it keeps my creative muscle going. And who knows what's going to come out of my keyboard here. The podcasting side of the house, it helps me develop my podcasting skills in editing, posting, show notes, all that other stuff that hopefully you don't hear too much of. Now, you can find out about National Novel Writing Month by going to my website and in the show notes, and I'll have the links there for you. And also, National Podcasting Post Month also is going to be in the show notes. So here's today's output. Okay, so I'm recording this on the 13th of November, but this will be for the 12th of November, 2022. The word count is 1,642 for the 12th, and the total word count is 18,788. Mark and Tinley made it home from the police station in silence. Mark pulled into the garage, and as the door shut, he put the car in park and turned the engine off. "Thank you for turning the car off," said Tinley after a few minutes of shared silence. "What do you mean?" asked Mark. "I mean, is life worth living without Winona? I'm struggling with that right now, and I know we have to carry on, but it would just be easier to sit in here with you and join her," cried Tinley. Mark undid his seatbelt and undid Tinley's. He held her as her emotions overtook her, and his started to overtake him. They held each other for what seemed to be forever. Tinley broke the embrace, watching her husband, crying. "Let's get inside before we do something that everyone will regret. We're going to need to start making arrangements, and I'm going to need you to help me to do it," said Tinley. She opened her door and started for the interior door that led into the house. "You coming?" "I need a minute," said Mark from inside the car. "I'll give you 5. Do not turn on the car. I am not going to lose you today, too," said Tinley as she went inside and closed the door. The garage door overhead light went out as Mark sat in the darkness alone. He was deep in thought about what happened and saw the body of his daughter whenever he closed his eyes. Her chest ripped open, her closed eyes. The blood spattered on her neck and cheeks. He couldn't get rid of that sight no matter how many times he tried to remember happier times. His only relief was that Tinley wasn't there to identify Winona's body. If she had been there, they would have ended it in the garage. He flashed to an image of them being found in the car by the police days after suffocating themselves in the car. It didn't provide the relief he was seeking. His old friend anger started to well up in his chest, and he wanted to find the animal responsible and tear them apart with his bare hands. Mark opened the car, and the overhead light came on. He slammed the door and went to his workbench. Picking up tools, he threw them at the wall. Some bounced slightly, others bounced back, and hit him in the arms. and hit him in the chest. When he finished throwing all the tools he could reach, he began yelling curses to everything in the world and universe. Blood started to form from his hands and chest that had been hit by the flying tools. He collapsed on the floor and was quiet. Tinley gave him one moment more and came out into the garage. She knelt down next to him and held him, wiping the blood on his hands and chest with a shop rag. She pulled him up gently and led him by the arm that was less injured and into the house and into the bathroom. She took off his shirt and ran some water on a towel and nursed his self-inflicted wounds. She cooed at him and hummed a lullaby that she used on Winona when she was an infant. The couple was quiet and didn't say a word for some time. Tinley had fully bandaged up Mark's wounds, led him to the couch, and had him lay down. She went to the kitchen and started to make a pot of coffee and put together a meat and cheese tray. When the coffee started to percolate, she put the tray on the coffee table in front of Mark and went back to the kitchen and poured 2 cups of coffee. She sat next to Mark on the couch and laid her head in his lap, like she used to do when they first started dating. He stroked her hair lightly and lovingly. That is how they spent the next few hours until the sun went down. The room had darkened, and Mark got up softly as Tinley was sleeping slightly on his lap. He grabbed a pillow and placed it under her head. Pulling out his phone, he called his boss's personal cell phone without looking at the messages that had accumulated on his phone. He moved quietly to the kitchen and turned on the light above the stove. "Hey, Gerald, this is Mark," he whispered. "So, I saw the press conference and read between the lines. That was your girl, Winona. I'm so sorry," said Gerald. "Yeah, we got home from the police station a while ago, and I've just slept since then. I'm going to need some time off," said Mark. "You don't even need to ask. Just let me know when you are ready to come back. There is no rush," said Gerald. "Thanks, I appreciate that. I need to get in contact with HR about our benefits and see what we can use," asked Mark. "I'll have HR give you a call in the morning. I'm not an expert, but I know that part of the insurance policy will cover final expenses. If you need anything, let me know. I just want you both to know that our family is here for you and your family," said Gerald. "Thank you again, Gerald. How's your boy doing?" asked Mark. "He's okay. We got a call from him letting us know he was okay when they were in lockdown for the active shooter. He is a little shaken up, and we haven't talked to him about who passed. I don't think he noticed that Winona wasn't there yet. Now that I know, would it be okay to let him know? We will keep him home from school tomorrow, and I know my wife would want to speak with Tinley if that's okay tomorrow," asked Gerald. "Oh, that's fine. And thank you for asking about that. I'm not sure what time we're going to be moving around tomorrow. We're going to be taking it minute by minute for a while. But I'm sure she would appreciate a call," said Mark. "Okay, get some sleep tonight. Let me know if we can help. Call me anytime," said Gerald. "Good night, Gerald. We will talk tomorrow," he said. He hung up the phone and noticed his camera light came on. He didn't think too much about it and tried to swipe it off. When it didn't go off, he tried to force it down. He tried to force shut it down, which again didn't work. He then selected to reset the phone and put it back in his pocket. When the phone came back on, he noticed that the camera app was off, and he dialed Tinley's parents. They were in a different state, so they would not have known about the press conference. It was only 8 p.m. local time there, so they would still be awake. Cody messaged Adrian, Dylan, and Mason for a virtual meeting. They responded within 15 minutes since they were at work on their tasks. "Okay, gentlemen, I looked over the script and it's very good. It's very good. Adrian, go ahead and send a copy over to Mason. He will start the ball rolling with his podcast. I want an episode released tonight, and I want it to be our opening shot. Mason, I'll need to know stats once it's released and how many downloads we get with this initial messaging, said Cody. Well, I usually release every other week. Next week would be when my podcast is regularly scheduled to go out. I really don't have time to alert our listeners about what we're doing. I would not expect huge numbers. Probably we will hit 1,000 downloads by morning and pick up more during the day as word gets out. I'll jump on the Discord servers and do a pre-launch message, and that may bump up the numbers. We will definitely beat the media to the punch on this, and we'll probably get some attention, get some mentions in them in the morning by them, said Mason. That's fine. We'll get the ball rolling on the messages, and our allies will back it up and run with it. I want you to get on other shows during this week and spread it even further. I'm sure we can generate a lot of interest. Do you think the mainstream media will talk with you? Asked Cody. I did paint a sympathetic picture when the police escorted me out of the press conference and took me around the corner out of their sight. No pictures were taken, and no one except the officers saw me go in the office building. I saw two of the reporters trying to enter the building and try to question the cops. That was a stroke of genius to have them take me away, said Mason. Make sure you reach out to them and let them know that you're okay but concerned about being watched by the police. That should add a little assistance to our message. If we can get the local media buying into even a sliver of our messaging, that will legitimize it, and they can do the heavy lifting of getting our message to the general public, said Cody. Can you have a first draft for me in about an hour before you put it out to the podcast? Absolutely. Barring any updates by you, we should have this out before the 10 o'clock news, said Mason. Make it so, gentlemen. Let's make sure we lure Tindley out in public and bury her at a press conference. You know what we need to do. You've got your orders. Get going. Make me proud, said Cody. Thank you for listening to this episode of Create Art Podcast. If you enjoyed what you heard or absolutely hated it, hey, please feel free to leave me a comment right there on the website, or you can email me, timothy@createartpodcast.com. If you got something out of any of the episodes here, please consider sharing it with a friend. And if you would, also let me know what would make this a 5-star podcast, I'd like to hear that. I want to make sure that I'm helping you tame your inner critic and create more than you consume. By the way, I run another podcast called Find a Podcast About, and that's where I help you outsmart the algorithm and find your next binge-worthy podcast. You can find that at findapodcastabout.xyz. If you go to the website, there's a way where you can leave me an actual voicemail, which I think is pretty nifty. Anyhow, I have a lot of reviews there of different podcasts from different genres, and I even have some interviews from the podcasters themselves. So if you're looking for a new podcast with a great recommendation, with a well thought out critique of everything you need to know about the podcast, then go to findapodcastabout.xyz. We'll see you next time.